Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. We've got another of our interviews with executives of junior mining companies, and today I've got an announcement to make that Dynasty Gold has recently become a sponsor of my shows and my reports. And I'm really anxious to talk to Roman and Ivy about the recent results. Thank you very much for joining me, Roman and Ivy.
Thank you for having us, Allan.
Pleasure to be here.
So let's get right into it, because what just jumped off the page to me with the recent results was that you hit one hole, hole DP 2202, hit a 3-meter intersection of 43.47 grams of gold. Hole 03 hit 1.5 meters at 246 grams of gold. And hole 4 hit 1.5 grams at 25, or 1.5 meters at 25 grams. Heck of a good start there, Roman.
I think so too. I don't take credit for it, but it's nice to have you, regardless of how I got there.
You must have had some hand in picking. Who picked the drill holes, Roman? You better give him a raise.
You talked to Ivy about that.
Well, that's Roman. Roman is the brain behind all these holes.
Oh, good. Well, I did some additional homework because when this news came out, I heard some strange commentary out there in the internet world. And I did the opposite. I did my homework, and I hope you can see the map here. This is the Google Earth image. There's Dryden, and there's the Thundercloud Bonanza hit. Can you guys see that? Okay.
So where your hands
Right.
is.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So right off the bat, some exciting things stood out to me that go with the importance of this results. I did this is an orogenic gold system, so I did some homework on the structural story, and there's an important structure that goes along here and is right at your northern boundary of your claim block. Down here is a second fault with a very significant displacement of that fault. And then up here is another fault. And right in here is your claim blocks. And I noticed that there's about 6 rock packages that converge inside of this structural setting. That all got me very excited, Roman.
Well, you're ahead of me.
Well, somebody put it out there on somebody put the geological maps out there on your website. So that's where I got the convergence of about 6 rock packages. And then, of course, I did my homework on Google Earth here, and I noticed the structural story as well.
Yeah, well, there's from my perspective, you have the felsic intrusive porphyry in I'm not sure I know exactly where it is on the map, but on the east, and what we're working with is bordering it. It's an area that has seen most of the work, actually.
Okay. I believe that is up in here somewhere, where most of the historical drilling has happened. Can you see my hand?
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
I think it's up in there somewhere where you had done the historical work.
Anyway, I'm not sure I can place it with any confidence.
Well, no worries. I looked at your coordinates that you put out on the drill holes, and I'm pretty certain I'm within meters of the Thundercloud Bonanza hit that you
That's
made.
where the yellow is.
Yeah, where that yellow pin is.
Okay. Fair enough.
And so what do you think's happening here from a geological perspective, Roman?
Well, it's kind of early days for me, and I think it's early days for a lot of other people too. But what I was starting to say is on the in the center of the block, there is an area, and I thought it was to the west of a lake, and I can't see where that might be on your Google Earth. That has seen most of the work done and has identified two mineralized areas. One that received most of the drilling by far has had Ivy, how many holes?
Well, 66 holes in the Pelnam zone.
Right. And then to the south, east of that, you have another zone that hasn't been drilled, but has a trench, well, a path or a trench or whatever you want to call it, going through it for some distance, and mineralized all the way with alternating areas of high grade with low grade mineralization. And that's I haven't measured it, but it's got to be over 1 kilometer in length. And both have, as you know, the main Pelham zone has a 43-101 on it. Those holes have numerous intercepts of gold mineralization, and the resource it has been calculated on that come on, Ivy. What's
Was 182,000 ounces at 1.37 gram per ton with 4.14 million tons of ore. That's an inferred resource. But by and large, that resource is towards the middle and the west of the Pelnam zone. That's where majority of the 66 holes were drilled. Now, the new targets, the new 4 holes, one is in the middle of that Pelnam zone. We're trying to very close to one of the good holes Noranda drilled in 88. We're trying to confirm those numbers so that we can include it in the 43-101 report. Now, the 43-101 report we prepared did not include the best intercepts from a half dozen of holes from Noranda's drilling. So that's the purpose of the first hole. The next 3 holes were drilled towards the center east of the Pelnam zone, which has seen a very, very few holes. So they were considered somewhat step out from the majority of the drilling from the past.
And were they deeper than the resource drilling?
Well, actually, they were shallower. The deepest hole that with the 3 holes with the intercepts is the second hole. It's got 295 meters, which we intercepted, I think it's around about 121 meters at average grade of 1.31 gram per ton.
Right. And what was the reasoning behind these holes that intersected the very high grade to Bonanza grade hits?
If I may guess, I'd say that there was a little bit of luck involved, but you got to give somebody credit for it. So I would give the credit to the geologist that she has. That was primarily involved in getting the 4 holes established or indicated. To drill, so what at this stage, I don't know how you hook all that up together, but it looks like you have 2 types of mineralization and some in between of maybe of it. You have the high grade, often quartz bearing veins within larger intervals of lower grade material.
Right.
How you explain that? I mean, you can theorize how all that happened, but I think it's a little early days for me to tell you what I think happened, because I would like to get more information first.
So it might be difficult to theorize and come up with a model at this stage in the game. But what I also did was, back when I started in the business in the 1990s, Roman, we didn't have the technology and software that we do now. And I remember doing cross sections where we'd put plastic in a holder and we'd draw them out by hand. And so I kind of, in my mind, I did some of that. And if you look at the azimuth of the drill holes, you've got one hole which is going directly south, one hole a little bit off of that to the east, and another hole a little bit off of that to the west. And then what I looked at is my old mentors in geology always told me to look at where the distribution of the high grade or the gold is in the drill hole. And so the most westerly hole had the shallowest intersection at about 145 meters. Then you step over a little to the southern hole, and it hit it at 178 meters. And then you step over to the hole that hit it to the east a little bit, and you hit it at 193 meters. So something's starting to take shape there.
Mm-hmm. I think the pattern. Well, let's put it this way. I don't know where it's all going to end up, but what Ivy has here, she has picked up from Tech a piece of ground that has been covered with geophysics, mag primarily, and IP. That form an excellent base for her to start really working over. I think she's very fortunate having that, and not only that, she has besides the high grade intercept that she got in the recent drilling, she has this untested area to the south, which has a lot of features that you see in this high grade area, and which has very little work other than a few assays taken off the surface. You know, it's got length, it's got high grade, it's got well, I guess you'd call it low grade. And it's a pattern that seems to be showing up in the recent drilling and has shown up in some of the old drilling. I think we have to look and try and zero in and see what the dimensions of these mineralized areas are. And I would be surprised if she didn't do that this coming summer.
And from a strategic exploration perspective, would you focus in on expanding that near surface stuff in the resource, or chase after this this high grade zone you've tagged into?
I'd like to think we'll be able to check both out. Obviously, we got this high grade zone, and the interest in it at this stage. I think it would be a mistake not to see just what it's telling us, especially in terms of getting a better handle on the potential thickness of this zone, and trying to figure out where it's going, especially maybe even higher up, see if these wide zones are projecting closer to surface in some cases, or I'd be surprised if they're all, you have to go 300 or 400 meters down before you get them. I suspect that there's more to it than that. Yeah.
Right. And I read that this has been presented in the past as an orogenic gold system. Is that in a general sense what you think could be happening here, Roman?
So what do you regard as an orogenic gold system?
Deep structures that have complex faulting and mineralization following its way up those deep cracks in the earth. You know, the model that excites everybody out there is the Fosterville model that you know, they got down to about 750 meters of depth, and they were into the sweet spot that made Kirkland Lake one of the lowest cost producers of gold in the business, and it had quite a complex structural story at depth.
There's obviously structure involved here where we're working now, because it's the one place in the concession where you have an east-west trending, has to be a fault, which breaks up the more or less north-south trend of the rocks themselves, including a nonconformity that I suspect exists between the sediments and the volcanics. Whether that structure itself is strong enough, or as you pointed out, there are other structures that is near the block itself are involved in it. I'd be surprised if that were not the case, but there is, in my mind, and from what little I've seen, a suggestion that there is a blanket type of mineralization that's going on as well, and that I'm pretty curious about where that's heading.
When I was, you know, looking at the structural story, I noticed a couple things in the maps that you guys have on your website. Is that northern structure sort of covers the north end of your claim blocks, And then there's a second structure coming through the center to a little bit south of your claim blocks. And that has a pretty significant displacement to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I have no feel for that at this stage, but we won't argue with you at this stage. That sounds pretty good.
Well, another interesting thing is then I looked at your geological packages of rock, and right about where that fault that goes through your claim block is, there's about 6 packages of rock all contained within that immediate area. It sure sounds like something pretty spectacular is going on there.
Well, you of course you got the mafic intrusive going through that, and we did an airborne on that, and we got a very good handle on the magnetics and what it's telling us. But the magnetics are confined to that structure pretty well. They turn up as you go westward. They turn up to the north a little bit, but the mineralization in the south that hasn't been worked on to any extent. There's no mag there to speak of. So it seems to lack the mafic intrusives that you have associated with the mineralization in the center part. And I'm scratching my head as to whether that's coincidental or whether it's significant at this stage.
Well, and Roman, another thing that stood out when I was doing my research on the company was that you were inducted into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame in 2009. That puts you in a pretty esteemed category. So I think they got a good guy on the job.
Well, you better convince Ivy of that.
Well,
No,
in our conversations, Ivy's been very complimentary of you, Roman.
Well, she knows what she's doing too.
Good. So
that's
Ivy,
great.
oh, sorry.
Well, that's a great comment from a legend.
I often find that legends have a discomfort with the legend moniker, but you don't get into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame by accident.
Well, everybody makes a mistake once in a while.
Well, it looks like you guys are making a good one here. Ivy, I want to bring you in to chat a little bit about the share structure and plans going forward. What is the share count? And let's start there.
Yeah, we have total issued outstanding around about 44 million shares. Now, out of that 44 million shares, around about just close to 6 million, they are not trading yet. So really, we're in the market about 38 million shares. Now, out of the 38 million, we have roughly about 50% or close to 50% now held by a few long-term shareholders and insiders. But I saw the volume in the last couple of days, which we are actually taken by surprise.
Well, I'm not taken by surprise at all. When you start kicking out numbers like 3 meters of 43 grams, 1.5 meters of 246 grams, and I think the other one was about 25 grams in 3 different drill holes, certainly catches my attention. And then when you have a company that doesn't have a lot of stock out, it can bring in that kind of action.
Yes, we hope so. Now, when you talk about the 3 holes, we are now preparing sessions. We are trying to fit into that 3 holes to the historic data. We want to make a bigger picture. What is this all about? In the past, the 66 holes, they have long intercepts, but as well as they have a very high grade. I was just looking at the historic data this morning. You know, they do, even in text database, there was something 65 gram, but they did not quite import the intercepts. Just going back the days from Noranda, they got a half a meter of 199 gram.
Wow.
But so we are now putting all this with the drill data we have, trying to make sense out of this. What does that mean? We're trying to see how, whether it's veins, different kind of veins, or there's one vein, or there's multiple veins. Correct me if I'm wrong, Roman. We believe is the younger gabbro in the Pelnam area, in the Pelnam zone, intrude into the mafic volcanics. And there's a sediment in the contact. You see, where the high grades are created is in the contact area, very often between different types of rocks. On our property, we believe that is the contact between gabbro and mafic volcanics. Maybe there's more contact, like you just said, there's 7 different kind of rocks on the property, right? There may be multiple contacts. So that at this point, we believe the high grades is from the sediment, it's the cores. From the core, you can see very obviously there's a lot of pyrites. It's staring at you, sparkling pyrite. There's also traces of gold sparks. When you get 8 ounces of 1.5 meters, obviously gold are visible, right? I saw it, the gold spark. I was actually on site when we did the drill program. I was on site for a few days working along the guys. So I saw some of the cores. Now, I'm not a geologist, I must declare, but the geologists were showing me the core, pointing out where the sparkles of the pyrites and the sparkling of the gold are in the core. So we hope to bring those core to the PDAC.
Ah, great. Roman, you got to give Ivy a pretty good check mark, grade there for her, even though she's not a geologist.
She did very well, yeah.
Well, and that gets back to those contacts that, you know, those are your conduits for the fluids carrying the gold to make their way up closer to surface. And that's why that group of rocks in that area around the structural story is so exciting to me.
What do you say to that, Ivy?
Well, you know, at this point, although we hit the highest grade and, you know, decent intercept, right? When you look at 3 meters over 101 gram, which is 1 meter is 246 gram. The other meter is 57.9 gram. You add them up, you divide it by 3. So that's where the 101 gram came about. Now, obviously, we don't know if we are on the veins now or we're on the structure. Obviously, we have to do way more drilling. I think once we put the modeling, we're working on the model now together, we might get a good feel where the vein is going. Is it going east? Is it going, you know, maybe northeast, northwest, northeast or north east south. At this point, we're doing that homework. And obviously, I was just talking to a geologist yesterday. He was telling me, he said just some thicker sections that he's working on, the next drill package. Well, that's just from a geologist. We haven't drilled yet, okay, I must declare. And but he's looking at those, where the high grade takes us to, how far it would take us. Mostly towards the east. Now we're working towards the east. Now we got the Pelnam zone at the east.
Before you go on to the Pelham zone, if you can look at my hands here, I'm going to do a little bit of a cross section for people. The one hole goes like this. You've got another hole that goes like this, and another hole that goes like this. The one to the west has your high grade at the highest level. The central hole has it a little bit deeper, and the third hole to the east has it even deeper. So it looks like the trend of that high grade is definitely going towards the east and deeper.
There's quite a few feel that there's a plunging structure in that direction as well. As I say, I think there's a lot to be said for thinking about a blanket type arrangement for a lot of that low grade, and I'm not sure that isn't the source of the high grade. But I'd like to wait a little longer until we get a little more work done before speculating too far.
All righty. And Ivy, sorry I interrupted you when you were talking about the Pelham historical drilling. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, there was drilling in 2007 and 2008 by Teck. Their drill results is actually pretty good. You know, there's a lot of low-grade intercepts, longer intercepts, but with very high grade, like I just quoted, I was looking at this morning, as high as 65 grams per ton. Now, they drilled more towards the center, a little bit towards the west, but Noranda's hole back in 1988 was by and large in the west side, but they still intercepted those high grade. That's why we haven't figured out if the high grade is evenly distributed over the property, or is more focused on the east side. Obviously, the east side that where we hit, that carries the highest grade and the longest intercept. Now, when you talk about structure, I think the initial understanding we had based on the 66 holes was drilled was the east-west trending mineralization, east-west. The Pelham zone, you see that is offer shape Pelham zone is east-west.
Okay.
But the high grade so far as discovered is more towards the eastern portion. Well, this is our drilling, right? You know, others have drilled. So they also hit. Noranda has a couple very good holes. They've got a 15 gram of over. I can't remember 3 meters. There's a 14 meters of a 14 gram over 2-3 meters. This is why that we need to take a bit of time now to connect all the dots, right? Yeah, you know,
so
maybe
is that some of the focus of your immediate work in preparation for the PDAC, Ivy, is to try to model this up, the high grade portions and the lower grade portions, and overlay the geology and the structural story and geophysics on top of that?
Well, that's what we're doing right now. We already have the model produced just by plain map. It's a plain map. Now, we don't know if this high grade is actually open in both directions. Like I said, in the past, they did the west. They also got very high grade, but it's narrow intercept, right? Couple of meters, 14 gram, and couple, maybe a meter or two of 65 gram, half a meter of 199 gram. That's more towards the central and the west. Now,
if I can interrupt, Ivy, I think what this property needs, it needs a lot more geology, especially surface geology, in order to get a better understanding of what the main elements that you have to look at are. You have a strong possibility here of nonconformity. You have a possibility of conglomerates. You have faults as you're talking about. You have these blanket type occurrences that have been identified. And I think we have to look at what the rocks are telling us in a little more detail before we go too far out.
Understood. Roman, you're doing it in a thorough fashion and not wanting to throw too many Hail Marys and waving the arms, but I'm seeing some pretty exciting things when you take everything into context, the structural story, the geological story, the mineralization. In all honesty, I haven't had a chance to look at the geophysics a lot yet, but I certainly can see something pretty exciting developing there.
Yeah. Well, the IP is there. There's a lot of IP that hasn't been checked out yet.
Is it published on the website, Ivy?
The IP is not. The IP, I don't think we published. The IP was done by TAC. Okay, the airborne mag, we did it. There was a image on the web. I think there was an image in the presentation. Now we drilled into the high mag this time with the high grade stuff. Now the mag survey last summer has identified several pockets of high mag areas. You know, the rest of the high mag, now we got this grades, we need to check out all the other high grade, high mag areas to check them out. I think there's, you know, large high grade, high mag to the west, to the north, a little bit to the south, right? I mean, there's a lot of geology now, you know, with given the new results that we need to get our head around this. And, you know, like I said, I think Roman does not want to say this. It could be this high grade open in east-west direction, still will open, but we just need to do more drilling to confirm and check them out. We're still at the exploration stage.
Based on the homework that I've done and looked at the distribution of the gold from those 3 holes, I certainly don't think you've cut anything off.
You're right.
So still room for arm waving, Roman.
Yeah, and I think we shouldn't read too much into it, but it's certainly encouraging.
Well, I think the flip side of that coin is reading too little into it as well. When you get something with those kind of juices in it, I'm a bit of a high grade junkie, Roman, so it certainly wakes me up in the morning.
Okay, each his own.
There you go. There you go. Well, so you guys are going to be at the PDAC?
Yes, we have a booth at the PDAC. And, you know, like I said, we hope to get a core over at the PDAC for people to see. And where, you know, yeah, and get, like, you know, you just mentioned, we're going to do all those maps, right? At the point, whoever wants to visit our booth and see it, then we'll be there for them to see.
Will you also put that information out on your website, Ivy? Not everybody can get to the PDAC. I'm hoping to this year. It's been a few years since I've been there, but you guys might have me, you might see me at the booth there.
Oh yeah, you're most welcome.
Will you also put it online so people can see the core, see the all the data that is important?
Yeah, we're updating our presentation. That will include number of maps we're preparing right now. Okay, that we would hope to combine the mag map with the geology map. And hopefully we can show all the historical holes in relation to the new holes, where they are, the locations of them, how far apart they are. That, yeah, I don't think we have to do a lot of discussions where we're going to drill next. Obviously,
I would recommend putting that core out there too, Ivy. There's some people out there that might know what they're looking at. You get some
Yeah,
free geological input.
yeah, we might put the high grade the core a picture on the internet as a part of presentation anyway, right? For people to see, because as you know, do this program like this, we probably have hundreds, if not thousands, of core photos, right? We got to pull those one out and put them on the web for everyone to see. And like I said, we're taken surprised by these results.
Well, it's a hell of a nice surprise, Ivy. I think everybody would agree on that.
Well, that certainly is very good New Year presents for everyone. For our old shareholders, they've been with us for a very, very long time.
Roman, was there anything I didn't ask that I should have?
Yeah, I never thought of that kind of question, but
I thought Roman was
not
talking about
not offhand.
Good, good. How about from your perspective?
I appreciate your perspective on the overview. That's a good place to start, and I think it's if you look at the east-west structure that goes through there with the intrusives, that is quite anomalous in terms of the property that she has here. And what you're saying, I think there's a lot in common. The structure obviously controls the emplacement of the mafic intrusives. We have yet to get a common agreement as to what the mafic intrusives mean in terms of the mineralization and the order of when the mineralization was in place. What I see is a lot of mineralization in areas, of course, where the mafic intrusives are, but very few cases of words actually in the mafic intrusives, if any. I don't know yet. So
Well,
keep an open mind there.
I think the old truth machine will help shine light on that, Roman.
Anyway, time will tell.
Ivy, from your perspective, did I forget anything to ask during our chat?
Well, up to this point, there was a belief the gold was in the gabbro. But through our work in the last months and couple years, that we saw it could be, I think Roman should make this statement. It could be some of them is in the mafic volcanics, but based on our core log this time, we saw that was logged. The high-grade gold was actually in mafic volcanics. Like I said, it's the gabbro intruded in the mafic volcanics. The contact was filled by the sediment. The contact between the contact was sediment. The high-grade gold was actually found in the coarse veins in the sediment. Now, this sediment that we have here, it was compared, not by us, by a third party, was compared to the sediment at the Kirtland Lake. We had one slice in the presentation about that. I think was not there anymore. Was replaced with other slides. I can show you. I can send you some slices, which the comparison was made with the sediment Timinskimi. I don't know if that's a correct
That's right, it's a miscoming.
Yep, you got it.
type of rocks structure that carry that, you know, high grade gold is in the contact, between the contact of two rock type and filled by sediment. Sediment is kind of in between. Now, if you say you saw the map with 7 type of rocks, that actually shows that. We can go over that later, yeah.
Yep. It's actually on your website.
Oh, it is, yeah, okay.
Yep, it's there for people to do their homework, like I did. I don't go out there and throw a lot of mud and nonsense out there. I try to do my homework, and as I did my homework, I sure think that you've got something very special here, Ivy and Roman.
I think we're just beginning to understand, right? Like you said, you know, the structure on this property is complex. You got 7 different kind of rocks. All people before us, they haven't figured out the structure yet, right? It's done by, you know, different companies. And we took our time. We did look into it with Roman's knowledge in this. Kind of he guided us to think in the right direction. When this property is being worked by 2 major companies, you need a new thinking. So this time, when we drilled into, like the first hole was drilled into Gabbro, but there was insignificant amount of mineralization. You have to kind of you know, look at it with a fresh new eye, trying to find the host rocks, so to speak. And certainly that in the west contact zone, I think Roman has not really talked too much about it. He did mention there's very long mineralized, about 1 kilometer mineralization. But in that zone, the trenching was done before us, was showing 39 meters over 7 gram. Oh, sorry, 8 gram, 8.202 gram over 39 meters of trenching on the outcrop on that west contact zone. The west contact zone and the Bonanza zone.
Can you imagine having something like that sitting there, no one looking at it?
It's not been drilled.
Wow.
And that zone is about kilometers away from the Bonanza zone. And you know, we might be able to build a theory. The 2 zones are connected. If you connect the both Bonanza zone and the west contact zone, which is about approximately 1 kilometer away, and with the high grade trenching data sitting on the surface that has not been touched, so to speak, there's very little work. There's no mappings been done.
Well, I think what you're describing there, Ivy, can definitely get widespread gold distribution, which is suggestive of a powerful mineralizing system.
So what we're saying.
Actually, if I can interrupt, Ivy, what intrigues me is the presence of the porphyry and the mineralization all on one side of it, as known today. It's easy to imagine that a lot of this block is maybe underlain by the porphyry itself. Just to add a little
a little intrigue to the geological story. Well, you guys have been very kind with your time. I really wanted to dig deep into this, and I'm quite certain that we've got a lot of exciting news ahead of us and a lot more work.
Yes, a lot more work is ahead of us. A lot more drilling is required to understand this whole package, not just the Bonanza zone. You know, it could be much bigger than Bonanza. All we talk about is Bonanza zone. Bonanza zone, you know what, Allan? It's only about what? Less than kilometer width, maybe half kilometers, you know, depth. So it's a very kind of a small area. the larger area has not, especially between the Pelham and the West Contact. That whole area has not been explored. We just found a very high-grade trenching data about a kilometer away, it could be less than a kilometer. I think it's probably edge to edge for the two zones. It's about 400 kilometers. So you talk about from the center.
Not 400 kilometers.
Oh, sorry. 400 meters. Sorry, I gotta get my math right. 400 meters. So you're talking about, away from the center of the Pelham zone. There's a very promising area needs to be looked at.
Right. Well, I've got to wrap it up because I got another interview I got to do in a few minutes. But if you guys don't mind, I'll wrap it up and we'll say our goodbyes at the end.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, Allan.
Well, and I want to thank you guys for your time and your sponsorship because it enables me to really dig deep into your story. We'll be able to do these future interviews as more work and information is out there. I think to put it into context, you've got a very modest valuation. You've hit some really good looking stuff so far with up to Bonanza grades, and it's an exciting time for a little company like yours. And I think as you do more work, the company has the potential to become a lot bigger. And for investors that like to look at exploration companies, I think that makes for a good company for you to do your homework on. As always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important to speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. And I'm a real big proponent of doing your homework. Sometimes I find that investors and analysts out there, they shoot first and do their homework second. I try to do it the other way, and I like what I see so far. And I think it's important for investors to do their homework. You can do that by going to their website, looking at all their various different maps and geological packages and structural story. I hope I've helped to start that homework process. On that note, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.